Day.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, said as the JLS one.
This is a few days after Boxing Day for you lot, but for us right now recording this, it is currently 9:24 a.m. on Boxing Day.
Oh
and
my God.
We're recording for you.
The commitment to the bit. It's like having a job 24/7.
2 days on the trot, or more than 2 days on the trot. It's a lot of days on the trot.
A lot of days on the trot. So, listen, we're both home for Christmas. We've both got the mics out, but you're going to hear all kinds of noises on my side because you've got a whole family preparing for a Boxing Day around me. So you're going to hear creaking, barking, kettles, and you're just going to have to pretend you don't hear it. We're going to do our best with the audio wizardry to remove those, but otherwise just enjoy the ambiance.
Let's in mind, you've got the family running around, brothers, parents, partners, all running through the house. So, you know what? This is going to be a fun, family-friendly episode of Wholala.
There it is. It's a family ep. It's a family ep. How was your experience, Sam, of watching, one of the new RTD2 episodes with family and not with a watching party?
It was interesting. I tweeted yesterday, I was like, I missed my little viewing party. And then my partner who I watched it with was like, oh, well, screw us, I guess. But it was good. I did struggle. It really kind of, I don't know about you, it threw me back to childhood where I was guys, Doctor Who is on in 30 minutes. We all have to be ready.
It's so that.
And I quite quickly realised that the rest of the family don't care about watching Doctor Who. So it ended up being me, my brother, and my 2 cousins in the spare room. And neither of them had ever watched Doctor Who, to the point where my younger cousin, I said, we're gonna see the TARDIS. And he went, what's a TARDIS? And I was like, oh my God,
No.
You really know nothing. And it was funny as well. He is a little bit jumpy with things. I think he was a bit worried. He's 11. And I think he was a bit worried that it might be a bit scary because he heard about goblins eating babies. And I was talking to my aunt before and she was like, oh, he's a bit nervous. It might be a bit scary.
Oh, that'll be fine.
Well, this is the thing. I said to her, I was like, it's okay. When I was 7 in 2005, I was watching The Companion go back in time to save her dad from dying. And by the end of the episode, he realised he needed to kill himself to keep the flow of time. So I turned out fine. And she kind of was like, right.
And I'm fine. And then the year after that, I watched them face Satan.
Well, you didn't. I did.
Yeah. No, I watched that one. I didn't get to watch The Unquiet Dead was the one that got turned off for me. The Seance. I wasn't allowed that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, it was fun. It was very much throwing me back to childhood. What about you? How was your viewing experience?
I had the same thing completely. It was like we were playing a game of Catan and I was like, right, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes. And I was glad that not everyone was giving their full attention because I'd been nervous about the lyrics of the Goblin song for a while because I knew we'd have to have the subtitles on. And the subtitles on live TV are gigantic, so you can't miss the words. So I was like, right, in about 10 minutes, the words baby butter, baby scones, baby bones, eat with our teeth are all going to appear on the screen. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to defend that. So I didn't try to. I just let it all wash over me. I thought, you know what? I didn't make this show. I'm just watching it. But yeah, it was very that. It was very... You know, the family commentary is just very oh, this isn't very realistic. It's Doctor Who. I don't know what to say to you. Of course it isn't. But yeah, it was good. It was fun. Not as much fun as watching it with other Who fans. I think would have been pretty ecstatic for this one, but hey ho.
I agree. We might have to do a mini delayed viewing party or something with a couple of minutes.
A rewatch.
A rewatch, yeah. I mean, I have, dear listeners of the podcast, it is the 26th of December, very early in the morning, and I have seen the episode twice already to prep for this podcast. But yeah, no, I definitely found different joy in it than I found at the viewing party.
We'll watch it again. Look, listen, we've got 5 months now until the new series. We've got plenty of time to watch it again together.
We as Doctor Who fans are well trained in waiting large periods of time between episodes, so it'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we've done worse than this. We're seasoned.
Exactly.
Speaking of seasoned.
Just like the babies.
Just like the babies.
That's a coincidence.
Oh, that's a coincidence. Oh, better not say that.
That's a coincidence.
Thunder rumbles.
No.
Oh. Let's jump in with some context for this episode.
When we talked about the specials, we would watch them on a Saturday and do the podcast on the Monday. So there were a couple of days for people to get their feelings out online and for schools to settle and such. This is within
18 hours.
Yeah, this is within 18 hours of the episode airing. So some of the IMDb scores and such might change. This is all as of late on the 25th of December.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you know what it is currently. It's a little time capsule, this episode.
It's lost media or something.
Exactly. So the 2023 Christmas special was The Church on Ruby Road and aired just yesterday, a mere few hours ago for us, on the 25th of December 2023. The viewing figures haven't been announced yet because it's so early. And as of late on the 25th of December, it had an IMDb score of 7.1 out of 10 and a Letterboxd score of 3.5 out of 5.
Letterboxd reviewers are never generous, are they? With anything, really. I think people on Letterboxd are a bit snobby about taste and want to be seen to like all the right things and give very accurate scores for stuff. And they're never too generous unless they're being kind of ironic. The one review I did like, I follow Millie Gibson on Letterboxd, as everyone should. And she gave it a 5-star and her review was Ruby's hot.
She is. She's not
She
wrong.
is.
We on Wholala support Millie Gibbo.
We support that comment and that review. It was interesting. We were having a bit of a conversation about like rating episodes. It's not something we do on the pod, is try and give like star ratings. But I'm glad we don't, because I think it's difficult just enjoying media and just enjoying it and just thinking it's good, I think, without needing to be right about how good it was. I mean, ironic, right? Like, this is kind of like a TV review podcast, but it's tricky, isn't it? Like, there were bits in it, you said, there were parts of this episode where you were like, oh, I'm not sure if I like it, but not because I don't like it, but because I know other people won't like it. And you want it to be received well as a Who fan.
Yeah, no, exactly. I actually tweeted, I'm gonna be a little self-indulgent and read one of my own personal tweets on the pod. I got to a point yesterday where I was seeing quite a lot of people tweet like, listen guys, and these are like Doctor Who fans, they're like, I didn't love this episode. And when I see that title, I'm like, oh my God, they thought it was bad. And they're like, yeah, it just wasn't amazing. Like, I did like this, and I'd probably give it like, I don't know, like a 7 out of 10. And I was like, that's a good score.
That's
like,
good
that
score,
means you
love.
did like the episode. And I tweeted, I said, I think we all need to start being okay with the fact that an episode of Doctor Who can still be good, even if we wouldn't mark it a 10 out of 10. It seems like lately people go on about how an episode isn't good just because it isn't unanimously perfect. It's okay if it's just silly fun. And I stand by that. I believe that.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, darling. I think you're so right. I support you. I think it's fine to think that something was bad or not for you. So much it's taste as well. Like, if you do anything interesting and creative, it's not for everyone. It can't be for everyone. You can't make content that's for everyone.
My mum at one point watching the episode, she was like, this is quite different from what Doctor Who used to be. And I kind of turned to her and I was like, 60 years ago? Yeah, like, it is.
Yeah, but even like, you know, like probably like, you know, what are the most memorable Christmas episodes? It's going to be like the Christmas Invasion, right? And it's been how many years? I don't want to think about that.
18 years.
18 years. So, wow. Like, yeah, it should be different now. So, I mean, yeah.
You say that, but the little scene in that, I'm going to get killed by a Christmas tree. It's never been more relevant.
We'll get to that, because that
We'll
scene.
get to that.
Should we do a little episode recap then?
I think we should.
Written in a terrible rush at 8:55 this morning by Sam himself with his own fingers. So we'll see what this sounds like.
Give me some credit. I think it's going to be quite a nice summary of the episode.
Oh, it's going to be great.
As always on Wholala, we recommend please just go and watch the episode. It's on iPlayer if you're in the UK. It's on Disney Plus everywhere else in the world. But for anyone who hasn't seen the episode and would like a quick recap, here is a recap of the episode. The episode opens in the distant past of 2004. That's horrible. Where we see a cloaked woman leave a baby on the doorstep of a church on Christmas Eve. This baby grew up to be Ruby Sunday, who in the present day is trying to find her birth mother with the help of Davina McCall and her TV show. Ruby is finding herself surrounded by coincidence and bad luck, which ends up rubbing off on the people around her.
Waving hello to her neighbour Mrs. Flood, Ruby heads home where her adopted mother is fostering a new baby daughter on Ruby's birthday, the 33rd child she's fostered. When mischievous goblins steal the baby to bring to their flying ship, Ruby's life is thrust into the Doctor's, and they climb a rope ladder to the ship to stop the goblins eating the baby. The Doctor's invented intelligent gloves which help take the weight off their bodies so they can climb the ladder easier.
Once on the ship, they learn that the goblins can serve time and survive on chance and coincidence, allowing them to steal babies to feed to their goblin king. After a catchy song and a fun reprise from the Doctor and Ruby, they manage to get back baby Lulabelle from the goblins and escape the ship.
After returning to Ruby's flat, coincidences continue to happen, and this allows the goblins to surf back in time and steal Ruby as a baby, changing the future. She is forgotten from time, so only the Doctor remembers her. He goes back in time to the day she was left at the church, and using his intelligent gloves, he pulls the goblin ship down, and it pierces it and the king with the church spire, destroying them both.
Baby Ruby falls safely into the Doctor's arm and he returns her to the church, looking over at the mysterious figure that left her, walking away. He travels back to the present, where time has been corrected and Ruby is back where she should be. He goes to leave, but Ruby follows, piecing together that he must be able to travel in time. They leave in the TARDIS, ready for new adventures.
In a mid-credits scene, Ruby's mysterious neighbour, Mrs. Flood, turns directly to the camera saying, "What? You've never seen a TARDIS before?" Wink.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Ah!
What do the fans think, Sam? Let me know what the fans think.
Well, before we dive into our own thoughts, Alice, we've gathered a few of everyone else's thoughts from Twitter. We reached out to you on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, asking for opinions after the episode aired, and here's what some of you had to say. Ethan said, absolutely beautiful. I think that Ruby Sunday is going to be a new favourite companion of mine. I love how the show is now embracing fantasy genre. I'm excited to see how Russell explores that going forwards, and Ncuti Gatwa is certainly shaping up to become the Doctor.
Harry said, I think Ncuti is setting himself up to be my new fave. Sammy said, it really whet my appetite for a proper episode that doesn't fall in specials territory. I'm almost specialed out. I can't wait for May.
Laura said, I loved it. I don't think my jaw has ever actually dropped as much as when the Doctor started singing.
That's making me think David Tennant's gigantic wobbly yonder jaw. That's how she looked. Mel said, overall decent. The overall plot was fairly light and magical for Christmas. No real fault there. Nice intro for Ruby. Definitely enjoying her. 15 of the two interacting. Looking forward to seeing a whole series of them.
Pup Equinox said, didn't care for the musical number, felt very Disney movie, not enough explanation of the backstory of the goblins and why the Goblin King were on the boat for me personally.
And then finally, Harry said, I enjoyed it for what it was. Ncuti and Millie were fantastic. I love RTD's world building. His characters always feel real. I think the pacing was off though, hard to follow and left me with a fair few questions. Finding Doctor Who harder to follow in the last decade or so.
I feel like that's an interesting sort of period of time to talk about. Like, I've heard people say that, you know, since the specials build, since Russell came back, they're finding it a certain type of way, or even like going back to Jodie's era. But like, it's interesting, like the last decade has had such varied Who. That's just an interesting thought.
It is. I think just on that comment particularly, I was thinking something similar at the end of this one, where I was like, oh, you know, it's quite hard to conceptualize how some of this is happening, as in like surfing time and kind of being let in through the edges of the world through coincidence and stuff like that is very conceptual, and there's not tons in the episode to help you visualize how that works. And I think if you're familiar with Doctor Who and how time operates in Doctor Who, you kind of just accept it and you can kind of like, okay, right,
fill in the gaps.
And it's very Moffat-y, and we'll talk more about that, but it's a very Moffat-y way of writing a Doctor Who episode, right? It feels like this would not be out of place in an episode, 5-10 years ago in that era.
Yeah.
And the crack that appears, for example, in Ruby's flat, and it sealing up, and it's like, oh, they're gone from the world, and then, oh, we're in a different version of reality now. Like, for a Doctor Who avid watcher, you're like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, alternate timeline, the past has been changed, but for the family in the living room trying to follow, like, what? Like, she was just there. Like, how does he remember and no one else remembers? What? And it's like, that's Doctor Who, baby.
That's Doctor Who, baby. I do have to kind of take myself out of being the avid Doctor Who fan I am sometimes, because, yeah, I watched it and I kind of like put things together. I watched it twice. I watched it once with my cousin, and then later in the evening with the rest of my family. My 11-year-old cousin, bless him, I don't remember like exactly how much Doctor Who I understood when I was his age, but like I was watching series 1, OG series 1, when I was 7, and I think I basically got enough to get out of the episode, and he walked away with lesson, and he was like, his mum said like, oh, did you enjoy the episode? And he was like, I didn't know anything that was going on. I didn't get it. And she was like, don't worry, when I used to watch Doctor Who, I didn't get it either. But then when I watched it with the rest of my family later, like, for example, when the ship disappeared, or when the Goblin King was going to be the only one eating the babies, they were like, well, why are they saying about all eating if it's just the king? Or why did the ship disappear when it got pierced? And I kind of was like, oh, well, my theory is blah, blah, blah. And like, I've put two and two together, think this. And they kind of like, oh, well, that makes sense. But like, obviously they're not going to be able to put two and two together in that way.
So they're stupid. You remember what Russell said about... No, I'm kidding. Remember what Russell was saying about like, oh yeah, like gay Doctor Who fans, they're smarter and more funny. True. No.
True. Can't screw.
No, it's funny, like, even with this one, right? Like, in that moment, I was like, why does the Doctor remember and no one else remembers? Immediately then, my brain is like, oh, well, they explain that in the Series 3 finale because the Doctor was in the eye of the storm. And also, I know that the Doctor's a time traveler who can see when something's not right and, like, has that, like, Time Lord ability to, like, see when time has been altered. And I'm like, you wouldn't know that. How would you know that?
Yeah, literally, same here.
I'm like, oh, that's 20 years of Doctor Who knowledge now that kind of builds that. So I don't know how well it works. You know, as a jumping on point, how easy is that? No idea.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think now having watched this off the back of the giggle, where this is meant to be such a soft reboot for the show and try to bring in a whole new audience. For Doctor Who fans like us, we just enjoy it all for what it is. And like you said, we're kind of coming off the back of so many other years of Who. But it is an interesting jumping on point for people. I did love, I mean, we'll get into our highs and lows now, but I loved getting to see a new discovering the TARDIS scene, because I feel like even in Jodie's era, which is the last time we properly got this, Jodie was like, oh my God, my beautiful ghost monument. And like she came into the TARDIS and then the three companions kind of just sheepishly followed and were like, whoa. I loved getting a like popping your head into the TARDIS, coming back out, walking around it, like feeling the walls. I was like, oh, I missed this.
I did miss this. I actually forgot that they had to do that scene. I forgot that we had to have the companion reaction. Like when Millie goes in, I thought they were going to have like an immediate conversation. I was like, oh wait, yeah, of course. Like it's weird that it's bigger inside. I forgot we needed that scene. Let's start with an easy high today. Ruby Sunday. And my note here is, welcome back, Princess Diana, brackets, Clara Oswald. She, for me, is such a spiritual successor to Clara so far. And I really like her. You know, like I heard a criticism from my boyfriend of all people who was like, yeah, I don't know, like she felt a bit like a cookie cutter companion. Don't know if I like really saw like many layers to her character yet.
Well, out him on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like throw him under the bus. As in, I think he felt that he didn't see something that felt like too real in her character, which I didn't feel at all. I thought she was great. And I did see someone else on the timeline like really did not like Ruby, but I was shocked by that because I thought she was such an instant classic companion for me. She, I felt, was like oozing character in that hour. You know, she loves a night out, sings in a band. She's really positive and optimistic despite her life of bad luck and terrible clumsiness. She kind of meets all of that with a with a bit of a smile and a that's me. Great sense of humor, right laugh, you know, kind of like embraces the absurdity of everything as it's chucked at her. I thought it was just a fun character and a little bit of that sass as well that we love from a companion. Just a little bit. Just did you just hiss at me?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was so drawn in by her charisma. I thought she was so charismatic. I thought a big word that I've used in my notes about this episode is that Ruby and her family, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, they're just so real to me. Like, I believe this girl. Like, I remember when they announced Millie Gibson, I was a little bit apprehensive, maybe just because she was so young and I wasn't really familiar with her work before. And I was like, oh, you know, I wonder how she'll fare as like a, you know, main companion. And she completely blew it out of the water. And a big thing for me, she really held her own on screen with Shooty, because Shooty is such a powerhouse that he could easily overshadow the companion. But I felt like in the scenes that they were in together, she just held her own so much and they bounced off each other. And I just thought,
yeah. She didn't let 15/Shooty steal the show. I think they're really well paired. They like gave a lot each. They really both hold your attention on screen. They're both as interesting, I think, as each other. Yeah, I find her just very endearing. Like I want to know more about this person. I really, really do. Yeah, I thought she was fab. She was great. She had some great lines as well. I was foundled. I really liked. Like I said, the clumsiness was really fun to me. Like watching the Doctor leave and then just immediately smashing glass on the floor. And just that she chucks herself into the danger even before she's met the Doctor was really nice. A bit of like a do first, ask later attitude of, oh my God, I'm on the roof. like realizing like I've just climbed on the roof. Oh my God. It was really fun. And almost like realizing that she's hanging off a ladder. She's like, they've got the baby. I really, really enjoyed that.
It was really, really good. Also, for Ruby, I was going to say especially, but not just especially, but generally in this episode, but for Ruby, the costuming and the style is so good. I love Ruby's style. I love the black leather jacket. I love the miniskirt, the plaid. I love her pairing with 15. I reckon with 15, you know, when they got announced what their costumes would be and Ruby was wearing the like denim jacket and 15 had the plaid coat and the orange jumper, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like what they initially laid on, and they filmed the first scene of 15 in the bar, and then they decided, well, actually, we don't. I think that was meant to be the Doctor costume, which we then get variants of. And I wouldn't be surprised if they then changed that quite last minute, because we didn't see Ruby in that denim jacket look at all. We haven't seen her in any of the filming photos or promo. And I don't think we ever see 15 in that outfit again, or at least we haven't as of now. Obviously, his like classic Doctor outfit is the orange leather coat and the zip-up shirt and stuff like that. And I just think that's interesting. But no, the costuming in this entire episode, great. Millie and Ruby included, is so good.
Quick note on costume for sure. I mean, I love the costumes in this episode. I always like a good companion leather jacket. It makes me think I need to get a quality leather jacket this year because slay. I choose to believe that because 15 follows 14 and 14 lived for many years with Donna, we don't know how long, I choose to believe that he's wearing one of Donna's coats and that later in life Donna bought that coat because it's so similar to Donna's Series 4 coat.
It is.
I choose to believe that she eventually went back to this and bought a new one, and this is one of Donna's coats. That's my little headcanon for that. Let's talk about the Doctor. Oh my God. The second Shooty runs along that roof, he is so the Doctor. And I feel like you really get that sense of, phew, like the Doctor's here. And the line, a ladder in the sky, and you thought, yeah, I'll give that a go, babes. Impeccable delivery. The like leaping he's doing over those chimneys as well, so effortlessly. And I love this scene as well because he answers his own question there. Who sees a ladder in the sky and thinks, yeah, I'll give that a go? Well, he would, because he does it 2 seconds later. And also that he leaps on the moment that obviously the roof runs out, but also that it's like, they've got the baby, and leap. And that's the moment the Doctor jumps, is like, a child is in danger, I'm jumping. And I feel like that wrapped up so much of the character. And I like that it didn't really need any explaining, like, why is the Doctor on the roof? That's convenient. Well, yeah, because he's been following Ruby, he's probably been tracking the Goblins, and now he's just seen Ruby sort of dangling from the sky, and up he goes. It was just great.
I fell in love with him the moment I saw him in the giggle, and I'm just so glad to now have his first full episode. I love his style, I love his energy, I love his curiosity. I love when the Doctor is curious, because I feel like we quite often have had cynical doctors and doctors that like might not want to get involved. And like, I think Peter Capaldi's Doctor sort of fell circumstance to this at points where like it was a bit of an inconvenience to be on an adventure. Whereas I love that post, 14's big therapy session, the 15th Doctor is just curious about things and investigating things and discovering things. He's also really funny. I love his humour and like the way that he has conversation and stuff. We keep getting, good old flippant Doctor comments about the past, and I love him like leaning into not straight sexuality, where he was like, oh, I had a hot summer with Houdini. And Ruby fully just looks at him like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
And yeah, like I said earlier, him and Ruby just immediately have great chemistry. Within the first 5 minutes of them meeting each other, I already believed them to be a Doctor and companion duo for the ages. And I love that we're getting kind of like a brother-sister relationship with the Doctor companion. Like, it's not mentor-mentee, it's not lovers. It's kind of reminiscent of the Doctor and Donna, where they're just mates. They're just really good friends, and I love. And
you kind of see that in the preview as well, in that they sort of see danger coming down a corridor, and the instinctive reaction is kind of the Doctor to be protective and kind of like cling on to Ruby and kind of like cover her up and be like, oh, and hold on to her like that. And I think it's quite nice that they're like a little bit physical like that is nice as well. Like that physical affection is really, really nice. But yeah, he was extraordinary. The kind of ta-da leading off the ladder as well with the gloves was great. Like there's a kind of slight cockiness there, which was really fun, but it's like, a warranted cockiness. The like little yeah, with the goblins as well. Oh, they'll eat us too when we get up there. And on what you were saying as well about the curiosity of the Doctor, someone said something on X. Max said, I love it when the Doctor sees something absolutely mad and horrifying and just grins. 15's whole character feels like a beefed up version of Tennant's You Are Beautiful. And I like that as well, like heading into like terrible danger. And when they're crawling along in like the goblin air vents as well, and 15 looks down, he's like, that's amazing. And Rib's like, no, it's not. They're going to eat the babies. Oh, yeah. There's such a nice kind of like, oop. And there was a few moments as well that felt a little bit like previous Doctors as well that people pointed out, which was interesting. There's a very Eighth Doctor moment, as in Doctor Who TV movie 1996, with the kind of ping noise going off when 15's interacting with the policeman in the street and him having a diamond ring in his pocket. And they were like, oh, it reminds me of 8. There's this bit 8 does in that where he goes, Gareth, answer the second question in your midterm exam, not the third. The third may look easier, but you'll mess it up. And it's that kind of like the Doctor with a bit of like premonition kind of capability in there, like time travel in a bit of a I know your future kind of spooky way.
Much as I love like moments that Rod explained, like the Doctor being on the roof, what I liked about that little scene is that the Doctor's not magic. They're just smart and can put 2 and 2 together. And this is the Doctor that I love. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of, like, again, I'm going to sound like I'm really dragging Capaldi's here, and I don't mean that, but when he has the cue cards to, like, explain how other people feel and their emotions and stuff, I love that, like, the Doctor says, you know, she's going to say yes when she proposes, and they don't just leave it at that. He's not magic. He goes, well, my screwdriver just pinged, which means you got this, and that means you have this, and I can put together this, and it's obvious you're doing that because of this. And, like, to him, this is all obvious, and he's not magic and putting things. He just can put to him, it's just putting 2 and 2 together, when of course it's not. It's never that simple. So no, I really like that scene too. I know that was a late addition to the episode, so I'm glad they put it in. That
was apparently a kind of a Disney Plus note to put in this whole sequence, which is why we thought they were filming next year's Christmas special with this. I agree. I like a Doctor who's perceptive enough at least to like recognize the stuff. I didn't love the Capaldi stuff when he was like, oh, are you wearing makeup? Oh, are you tall? Are you sure? I don't know. I can't tell. Don't care. Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you a potato? I didn't love that because it felt like it had kind of like regressed from the perceptiveness that 9, 10 and basically every other Doctor has. So it was a bit like, it was a bit Sherlock-y as well, in that you can still be someone who's awkward and not good with saying the right thing in the right moment. I don't think it needs to take away from that, but someone who can at least observe and understand behaviour, even if you yourself are a bit, or I don't think it needs to remove from that.
Well, this is a question then. What do you think about 15's character in general in relation to that awkward sense? Because a lot of people are saying that they love the Doctor generally for being the awkward weirdo, and I'm thinking, you know, especially like, oh, sorry, my stomach's rumbling. And I'm thinking especially like 13 and 11, and they're a bit of like in the 4, they're a bit like bumbling. And this Doctor is so suave, like the way he catches the gin tonic, like,
he's
I'm the
so
Doctor,
cool.
gin and tonic division.
Yeah.
Like, he's so cool. Do you think that he needs to be a little bit more bumbly and like nerdy and like an oddball?
Yeah, it's interesting who's going to talk him down, because this is where 10 started, right? It's just being the cool Doctor and just being like, this hand's a fun hand. And then he sort of goes off to be just like a Casanova in the Doctor Who world. And I don't know how they're going to handle that, because Millie doesn't seem the Donna type to sort of smack him down when he gets a bit carried away. Will the years of therapy with Donna have already kind of prevented that from happening? I don't know. But it'd be nice to think that he's still going to run into scrapes by completely sticking his foot in it and being alien. But I'm sure they'll have thought about other ways to make sure it's still an alien character. But I agree, we didn't see a lot of that today. It's
interesting, yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We've got a whole season ahead.
Whole season ahead. There was a very 9 moment in there as well with the I'm learning the vocabulary of rope. A bit like, Rose, I'm resonating concrete.
That did feel very 9. It did.
Let's talk about the Goblins and the Goblin ship. I love the set for the Goblin ship.
Right? It was so... I love that, you know, they've lent into wood before, and it's been like, oh, the Sonic doesn't work on wood. But I love that, like, they're talking about this, like, tapestry, the Doctor describes it, of, like, coincidence and chance. And their ship is built in the same way, like a tapestry of rope, and every rope is connected and means something. Like, I think that's such a cool design.
It's a very cool design, and I like that it takes a minute for Doctor to kind of decode it. He's like, okay, this is their circuitry, this is their wiring. So if this is this, then this is this, and then this. It's a ventilation shaft. Okay, cool, got it. And it was a nice kind of sciencey way of kind of picking at it. And I think otherwise, them dealing with it with brute force maybe wouldn't have felt quite so doctory and just kind of smacking open all the wood panels. Though that probably was an option for them, to be honest. But yeah, I liked that a lot. I mean, the set designs have been so gorgeous in everything we've seen so far. If we consider this special number 4, if we call them the specials, the unit set's been amazing. The TARDIS set has been amazing. This is just another beautiful set. Even Ruby's, flat, everything is designed, to perfection. I've really, really loved it. Yeah, the Goblin song and the Goblins, easy high. A highlight for me is when the Goblin song kicks off. Obviously, Janice Goblin. Do go back and listen to our last episode of Wholala, where we meet Christina Rotondo, who was credited actually in this episode as the singer of the Goblin song. There's also one Goblin swinging on a rope who does a real Toad from Mario scream, just as it screams. And I was like, yes, that is the correct Goblin voice.
Yeah, it's so good. No, I mean, obviously we all knew the Goblin song was coming, so I was very prepared. I did have a moment when I was watching with my parents where I was like, oh my God, they're about to hear the Goblin song. It felt a bit weird. No, I loved the Goblins as a villain for this episode, because obviously it's a weird one, because I think of them as, they're just cute little mischievous monsters. And then you realise that oh no, they're eating babies. They are pretty bad. I just like they're mischievous. I like we see them playing little tricks. I don't know that I believe them murdering people, like the Davina McCall thing where the tree fell on her. I was a little bit I don't think that tree would probably kill you, Davina, but we'll move past that. I liked, like you said earlier, it plays into the clumsiness of Ruby dropping the drink. And I agree with you that I think that it was written very Moffat-y when Ruby was like, wait, hold on, so are they the reason that accidents happen? Are they the reason that we do these things? And the Doctor's like, maybe. Maybe they're responsible for every accident.
Do they cause all accidents? Maybe.
Yeah, they're like, we don't know. It did feel very, very Moffat-y. I and my mum, it was so funny because obviously they're just off screen moving coffee cups and pulling wires and stuff. And obviously we as the audience are being shown that, no one else paying attention. And my mum just sat there and she went, what is wrong with these people? I can see those goblins. Yeah. Which I just thought was a really funny way of doing it. But I also loved that they were practically done, that they were costumes, then comped to be smaller, because I just think it ages. We've spoken about this before. I just think it ages so much better than CG characters.
It does. I think you could tell they've been shrunk, is the only thing I'll say. I don't know if the scale thing was quite fully believable to me.
Oh, really? It didn't bother me at all.
It was a little teeny bit off for me. It was very well done. Very, very well done. I mean, this is really, really splitting hairs. The other thing I really liked about the Goblins, when they are dancing to the Goblin song, they are so out of time. They are just doing the crappiest dancing. And I loved it. I love that they had no sense of rhythm whatsoever. And they were just dead-eyed stares as they kind of just thump the floor. Loved it.
A bit of me was wondering, because I know that when they had the tape read for this, they had the Goblin song written because it was written by Russell, but they filmed this last year. And when, again, you as the audience, you're going to have to go back and listen to our last episode, because I have a really interesting chat with Christina Rotondo, who again voiced Janice Goblin. She was saying that she recorded the song in summer this year. So when I was watching Janice sing the Goblin song, none of her mouth movements are at all synced to the lyrics of the song. So I'm wondering whether they had a rough demo at the time of recording, and then they comped in Christina's version, and again it just didn't sync up. Because I like your outlook that it's just the Goblins have no sense of rhythm and they're really funny, but part of me is just from a production standpoint, I'm were they just not ready?
Probably they were just dancing to a metronome for most of that, I think.
Probably, yeah.
And also probably, I think there wasn't that many Goblin actors. I think it was 5 plus 5 puppeteers, so yeah, it was a lot of them doing the same movements many, many times placed on top of each other. So, I mean, it probably falls out of sync when we do that as well. But yeah, like you said, I think the whole theme as well of myths, luck, coincidence coming into the world a bit more. I really like the deliberate leaning into
the language of luck.
The language of luck, so Moffat-y. I really like it. I like leaning into fantasy because it makes it harder to like pick holes in the science, but I also just find it like quite like poetic and romantic when Doctor Who does that. And it's not going to be for everyone because, like we said, it's hard to conceptualize it, and that's where like my family chimes in, well, it's not very believable, is it? And I'm like, yeah, but that's the point. You suspend belief for fantasy.
You're allowed to watch something like this and it not like, yes, the goblins aren't stealing babies. Correct.
I like so the Doctor spotted bad luck and could see the bad luck kind of building around Ruby and had almost been following that. Like the idea that coincidence is what makes the baby taste good to these creatures, and that accidents stitch you into a day. Having an unlucky day makes you more complicated and knots you into the tapestry of the day and makes you more vivid. Like, it makes sense to me in a weird way. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah.
And I like the post Toymaker world. This is what the Doctor calls a brand new science, a cool consequence of like the Toymaker's domain, and drawing a line of salt at the edge of the universe is that the door is wide open for these kind of, you know, myths to creep in now, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it opens a whole new door of possibility. And I like that, like you said, with fantasy, you can't really pick it apart in the same way because none of it's real. The whole thing about fantasy is that it's a fantasy. And I think that, like, the goblin ship being put together by chance and coincidence, and that's why they're going to the people they're going to, because they're looking for people where all these things are like lining up, and along the way they're like causing mischief and bad luck and such. I think that it's just such a fun direction for Doctor Who going in, and that's why I get frustrated when I hear people say things like, "Oh, it's not very realistic," blah blah blah. Because I'm like, whatever happened to fun? Nobody wants to have any fun anymore. And yeah, like even just things like the Goblin song, like it was fun. I thought it was fun hearing the Doctor and Ruby have a reprise of the Goblin song. I did have one of those moments where I was like, ooh, are other people going to like this? This is very different. And my mum said to me, like, oh, it's so departed from what she was like, is Doctor Who a musical now? And I was like, oh, no, it's just like a fun thing for the episode. And I just thought it was fun. I also I adored that the Doctor had invented these intelligent gloves to like climb up the ladder. And when he's explaining how they work, he's like, oh, you know, because the science that shifts the weight and it takes the Mavity away. And I was like, we're keeping Mavity, baby. We're keeping it.
Mavity is my favorite running joke. I'm so glad that they're keeping Mavity in. It's like a nice, easy thing to keep. And it's kind of fun as well. Like for a time travel show, that Donna making like a bad joke once has changed everyone, including Ruby's like whole life and education. And the Doctor has also now just adopted Mavity and probably forgotten why. It's fun.
Why did the Doctor remember Ruby? Why did he forget Mavity? Don't even worry about it.
Doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Another real highlight for me of this episode was Davina McCall. I think this was such a camp, stupid cameo. This really feels like this one was for the gays, and I'm not really sure like what made this work so well, but she was just the right choice for this. I thought this was going to be played completely straight as well, because for the first like couple scenes she's in, she is just playing it as like, I'm Davina and I'm here to like move the plot along in terms of like, you know, being like, what's her show called? Long Lost Families or something?
Yeah, I mean, she has like My Mum, Your Dad, and she has loads of different shows like that kind of show.
She loves DNA. I was thinking, right, like, why would Davina like call Ruby personally to tell her they hadn't found anything? And then it like pans out and it's like, look, there is something else I'd like to ask you. Ruby, have you been having any bad luck lately? And then it was like this, like, oh my God, she's in a cast. Oh my God, she's got her leg up in a sling as well. And then I fell out of a boat on dry land. I've even been trampled by a moose. And it became really, you know, that bit, that Katie Price clip that goes around, and it's like,
my horse got killed, held at gunpoint in South Africa. Like, I caught my husband. But yeah, it's so dumb.
It was really that. And then the death by star, I was so glad that the star looked fake, that it was clearly like the most styrofoam glittery star, but they still played it as like, as if that like the lion's gone dead. Davina? I was fully like, I'm gonna get killed by a Christmas tree. But keeping it like obviously a styrofoam star was such like campy who nonsense. Like, of course, even though we have Disney money, yes, Davina McCall just got killed by the top of a Christmas tree. Like, of course, of course.
Yeah, I completely agree. Her acting at times left some to be desired.
Yeah, but for a cameo.
No, exactly. When she leant into the like silly camp of like, I've been trampled by a moose and stuff like that. Like, I was like, oh, okay, like it works for the bit. And I thought it was so funny. I just love that Davina McCall is the only actor thus far to appear in Series 1 of Doctor Who 2005 and Series 1 of Doctor Who 2023.
Yeah.
That's just so funny to me.
Yeah. Most of the time, I've noticed lately, like, the camera is like in motion so much more than it used to be in Doctor Who. And often that looks really, really nice. However, the one time it really stood out to me that I didn't like it is actually when, what's the character? Is it Mrs. Flood is the next door neighbour?
Mrs. Flood, yes.
Mrs. Flood is arguing with the neighbour and she's like, oh, you put that blue box on my pavement because you've never liked me. And they're having this kind of little Barney, and it's meant to be a bit of a comedy bit about, oh, you've never liked me, and she's like, oh, I'm not what you'd call geriatric. And the camera angles in that are so close on her face and the person she's talking to, and the way it pans to the TARDIS, it doesn't complement the dialogue. It's really weird the way that's been shot. If that was static and did a quick pan to reveal the TARDIS, I think it would actually be a lot funnier. But the way that was filmed was really odd to me. There was a few bits like that. Yeah, they went almost like too close in on some people. I was like, why have they done that? Pull back, pull back.
Pull back. Well, quickly, just talk about Mrs. Flood.
It's interesting because she doesn't recognise the police box.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is that? Why have you done that? You put it there because you don't... And then when it takes off, she drops her shopping, which initially I was like, oh, she's shocked because it's impossible. She's shocked because it's dematerialising in front of her. And then I thought about it and I was like, is she shocked because she realises it's a TARDIS? And she doesn't at the end say, what, never seen the TARDIS before. She says, never seen a TARDIS before. And suddenly I'm thinking, did she just not know it was a TARDIS? She recognises a police box. She didn't know it was a TARDIS.
Well, this is the thing. I was wondering whether, in my head, it's either one of two things. Either she's been swapped out, so at the beginning it is Mrs. Flood, and then at the end it's someone who's taken Mrs. Flood's place. That might be Clowntown. Or, like you said, it's someone who doesn't recognise TARDIS. Because, I mean, me, along with everyone else, we're always clowning. We're all hoping for the Rani to come back at some point. And I was like, it's the Rani! It probably isn't the Rani. But the Rani has met the Doctor and seen the Doctor's TARDIS before. Like, they'd know it was a phone box. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a mysterious tease. I love her as well, just as a character. I think she's really funny and likable. I really liked her to and fro with the Doctor at the end, like when he was running about and she kind of was like winking at him, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Good luck. I really liked her, but I'm excited to see more of her in the future.
I'm very excited to see more of her. I'm clowning. I'm like, yep, Rani, the Rani. Very interesting because her like ending line isn't sinister. She's kind of like,
it's like playful.
Yeah. She's like, good luck, Ruby, and gives a bit of a playful wink with quite upbeat music, as if it's like, I've met a Time Lord or the Doctor at some point in time. It's not a sinister thing, I don't think. But who knows?
Can you imagine? This is just Russell. It means nothing. I mean, it's Russell, so nothing means nothing. It means nothing. And she is just saying to the audience, like, never seen a TARDIS before.
It might get no payoff. It might get no payoff.
Well, something that I'm hoping gets a little payoff is that Mrs. Meridew from Warbler Yonder, second of the specials, comes back in a different role. She's the woman who's watching Ruby play the keyboard. And she says, give it some welly. Can you do Gordette? Like, who is she? She's coming back. I don't want to say anything about filming leaks or anything, but what I will say is when Blue Peter did the little special on Doctor Who, they were interviewing Russell, and in his office you can see a mock-up of a magazine cover which has the same woman playing a different character again on the cover of the magazine. So I think she is going to come up a few times in the series, and she's another maybe her and Mrs. Flood are maybe they're two ladies doing something together. I don't know.
They're up to something. She's not credited in this episode either, which is interesting. That she was credited Mrs. Marriagew in Wild Blue Yonder. She wasn't credited in this one. Yeah, I certainly don't think it's a coincidence. I think, well, coincidence, hey. But I think there is, there is something afoot with her. People saying, could this be the new kind of bad wolf of the series? Who knows? Another character I want to mention as well, quickly, Michelle Greenidge as Carla Sunday. I really, really loved her, and her character was so lovely. Her fostering all of those kids and having all those pictures of them on her fridge. I believe those are photos of people who are working on the show as well, because we follow a couple of people who work on Doctor Who, and they were like, "Oh, I'm officially one of her foster kids." So I think those must have all been pictured, a bit like in the Barbie movie, you know, when they have that like little compilation of people's mums, and they're all mums of people who worked on the film. I think that's always quite nice when they evolve that.
That was really cute. And even like when, it's just Russell's brain with this, even when all the kids been taken away, they have the pizza ad. She's just like stuck up a pizza place on her fridge. And did you, I'm assuming, you know, we're both in Doctor Who World, did you hear the whole thing about this pizza ad?
I did.
It's an ad for the pizza place on Minto Road, which is a callback itself. And it says in it, serving pizza since 2006 to the very first series of New Who, where Jackie's talking to Mickey and he's like, oh, have you tried that new pizza place on Minto Road? It's open pizza. And she's like, oh, there's little tubs of coleslaw. And it's just such a like fun little tie.
Is that the coleslaw that tastes sort of clinical?
Exactly. Hopefully they've made the coleslaw better. But no, I completely agree. I loved Michelle Greenidge as Carla. I also loved Angela Winter, who plays Cherry Sunday. I thought she was so funny. I love seeing different families in Doctor Who, like just different family dynamics of like, you know, adoptive parents and kids and foster kids and such. And I just love that there's that running joke of she spends the whole time asking for a cup of tea. Again, it just feels like a really real family. I love, like, we get kind of like a similar scene to the Doctor and Jackie where the Doctor's flirting with Cherry and he's like, I'll see you later, Cherry, and stuff like that. They're such a like real, believable family.
The flirtiness with Cherry Sunday was so much fun as well. Cherry
so
being
much
like,
fun.
Last time I saw a doctor, he tried to kill me, and he's like, oh, you know, you don't need me. You've got a whole family kind of looking after you. And then he's like, Cherry Sunday, and she's like a tasty treat. I really enjoyed that, and her like, where is my blasted tea? Just she could not get that cup of tea.
I love the end. She's like, I never thought the day would come when she gets her cup of tea. It was so cute.
Even just for her character, she had a motivation and she had a complete story arc.
One thing I loved in regards to family, in the scene when Ruby has been taken and the mum's sort of really depressed, and she's like, you know, oh, what am I doing? And she goes on about Christmas and stuff, and she's basically talking about what her life is like not having kids, and she's saying, I've never been so happy. I don't know if this was intentional, but people are reading this, and I believe this is true, as a callback to Vincent and the Doctor, where she's like, I've never been so happy, and she's crying, and the Doctor's like, then why are you crying? To where Amy is saying, I'm so happy, and then Vincent says, then why are you crying?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know. And I don't, like, there's always a thing where someone's been taken out of time, your mind still remembers a little bit.
And I think as well, we can read into that a little further with, you know, the crack in the ceiling being a bit of a callback as well to kind of the first Matt Smith arc about there being cracks in time and space. I'm sure is not a coincidence. I like as well that Russell's been this like,
that's a coincidence.
Yeah, he's been this kind of close observer of the show all this time, and I'm sure we're going to get these little callbacks. And it's nice to see him building on the work that other writers have done and what they've added to the show, and now doing nods back to the brilliant things they did. It feels like a lot of this, with it being quite Moffat-y, that he almost was watching the Moffat era and either thinking, oh, I could lean into a bit of this, or thinking, you know, maybe there's elements of this that I should start to bring in. But it felt so Moffat-y, didn't it? That's the funny thing.
It really did.
I can see, you know, if he ever did come back, Moffat having a lot of fun writing in this world of myth and coincidence, and I think he could do a lot within that would be fun.
I think so.
Let me shout out a few fruity moments, given that we position ourselves as a queer Doctor Who pod. So we had the dancing in a kilt in the club, was pretty cool. I don't know how sold I am on like the Doctor dancing competently in a club is a bit.
This is me talking about leaning into him being cool.
Yeah, it's a bit of an adjustment for me. I'm used to the Doctor being a very awkward character, and maybe if the Doctor did dance, it would look ridiculous, but you'd still appreciate the joyfulness of it. But
like the giraffe.
But the Doctor was actually like a very cool and hot dancer, a thing I'm not so used to. But, you know, I think conceptually a nice idea, and there's a lot that has already been said online that you can look at about how Russell was kind of inspired to do that scene by the way that he met his husband who's now passed away. So I liked kind of the thought behind that as well. The open-necked fits and the low vests I consider to be fruity moments in themselves. We got more than one of those, and Shooty absolutely ate them up. The reference to a long hot summer with Harry Houdini, people saying that the fact that the Doctor's been referring to knowing tricks from Houdini since at least the 70s means that it was probably the third Doctor at the latest who had the long hot summer, or indeed, as the 13th Doctor says, a wet weekend with Harry Houdini. So something happened there. I liked that as well. The Doctor gave a curtsy to the Goblin King and not a bow was a little thing in there that I thought was fun. And trans inclusion as well, I need to mention. Mary Malone has a character as one of Ruby's friends here, and someone said this on Twitter. Sorry, I haven't got their name up. They said, Mary Malone's character being Ruby's friend who just hangs out with her and goes out on the town to talk about normal shit and shows how normal we are. It made me so happy. Just made me feel normalized and warm. As like a kind of like casual piece of trans inclusion that was, I think, just a bit more subtle than what we got in previous episodes, but also just like it's just part of showing these like diverse families, diverse friend groups, and I think just reflects a bit of kind of the world that we actually live in was really nice.
I think that that's really important for the show because it's really kicked down the doors for trans inclusion in the previous specials. But I think the important way to go now is just showing trans people as they are, which is normal bloody people that are just as boring as the rest of us. And I love that the trans character who's Ruby's friend has absolutely nothing to do in the plot with them being trans. It has nothing to do with the plot. They literally are just one of Ruby's mates, and they're in the band that Ruby's in, and they go on nights out.
Someone did a tweet and they were like, can you believe that until like 2013 these were like the only trans characters in the show? And it was a picture of Cassandra and a horse. Which isn't quite true, because I believe that was after 2013. So no, until 2013 the only trans characters in the show was Cassandra and a horse. So we've come a long way quite quick, which is nice.
We've come a long way.
So those are my fruity shout outs. But dear listeners, if you saw anything else that you thought was a wonderful fruity moment in this episode, please do shout us out at Wholala Pod.
One final point that I want to quickly touch on is the use of time travel in this episode. I love, and I don't think this happens enough in Doctor, and I'm really excited to happen in this episode, that time travel, the Doctor has a time machine, that time travel is used as a device to help fix the plot, like save the day, rather than just a vessel to get the Doctor from A to B. Normally time travel, they travel back in time and then they're back in time and they're there and the TARDIS is still the whole time and then they leave at the end of it. I like that the TARDIS moves a lot in this episode, and I think that it's there's so many times we can't change time, we can't make time and fix points in time and stuff. I like that the Doctor uses the TARDIS to save the day, and that he goes back in time to fix the problem and then comes back to the present and the problem is fixed. Because the way that time travel works in Doctor 2 is different from say the Avengers or something where there's a branch timeline. It's no, you affect the past, it affects the future, like in Back to the Future. Yeah. And I think that, there are fun visual indicators that something's wrong, Carla hasn't decorated for Christmas because she doesn't have kids. And bless him, my 11-year-old cousin was quite confused. But it's a time travel show. It's meant to involve time travel. And I just thought that was a really fun inclusion.
I agree. I think great fun. One final discussion point that I would invite our dear listener to go and have a look at and feed back to me on. Now, I could be wrong, but I know we have some real musical experts, as in people who can play the piano, who will, that's what I call you if you can play an instrument, a musical expert who can tell me. There's a musical cue that plays when Ruby goes into the TARDIS, and it's like da 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 da, and it's the same sound that plays when the companions die in the puppet show in The Giggle.
Oh, really?
And it's da 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 da, and it plays a few times in this, and I don't know if that's another cue from another thing that I've forgotten about or don't know, but na 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 is the sound, and I don't know if I'm singing that quite right, but go and have a look and see if it's the same. See if I'm missing it, and maybe it's something else that's being referenced. But every time that the toy maker was snipping through the strings, there was and it plays a few times when Ruby first goes in the TARDIS. See if you can hear it.
So, Alasdair, you enjoyed the episode overall?
I loved it. I think this was liquid Who is what I'd call this. I think people
That's a great way of describing it.
People who didn't enjoy it, that's fine. That's fine. But for me, this was liquid Doctor Who. I think really sets the tone for what we're getting more of, and I'm really looking forward to what we get next. How about you?
No, me too. I think that it's like Who in a bottle. I think this episode,
Who in a bottle.
And like Who in a bottle, and you get fun adventure, silly jokes, clever plots. I think an iconic, dare I say, one of the most iconic potentially Doctor Companion duos to come. I think it was really fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm so excited knowing that we have at least 2 full seasons of the Doctor and Ruby as the Doctor and the Companion. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too.
Yeah. But before we see where that goes, it's time for a little game.
Oh!
Alasdair, are you ready to play the last game of Camp or Damp of Season 3 of Wholala?
Ah!
Camp or Damp!
Camp or Damp! Bow, 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 bow.
The Doctor living their best life in the club. Camp or Damp?
The club. Camp. Very camp moment. Camp moment.
It was very camp.
It's pushing the boat.
Yeah.
It's new. It's different. I'm into it.
The Doctor's hot summer with Harry Houdini. Camp or Damp?
Harry Houdini's hot summer camp. And also, I think we saw on Twitter there were some pictures of Harry Houdini at a certain point in life. He's quite fit.
I didn't realise how attractive he was at one point.
Yeah.
Camp. And Davina McCall going to get killed by a Christmas tree. Camp or Damp?
And just because there's going to be something that I can't. I thought that was camp. The whole performance was camp. Chapel by Moose was camp. And then Merry Christmas, Davina McCall. Merry Christmas, everyone. I thought was super camp.
So I've got a couple fun facts for you. This is the first Christmas special since Twice Upon a Time 2017, after the 13th Doctor's era in 2018, which had New Year's specials instead, which makes it, if I do my maths correctly, 6 years. Literally, that was live maths, and 6 years since our last Christmas special.
It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a bloody while.
I've waited 84 years. As we mentioned in the episode, the addition of the snowman scene was added very late into reshoots, as Disney gave feedback after the initial screening that Shooty needed to be included earlier in the episode, which I do agree with. I think that for Shooty's premiere episode, having him appear later, a bit like in like a Ninth Doctor sense, where we're following the companion more, I think that might not have been the way to go, given that we have actually already been introduced to the character. So I think that was a worthy inclusion. And fun, just the snowman scene was fun in general, I think.
Yeah.
Next week, there's no Wholala because this is the season finale of season 3 of Wholala.
Wow. Yeah, super shocking that we've and well timed as well. Nice one, everyone. Yeah, so we're having our wilderness years now. No, I'm just kidding. We're having a few weeks of not being back on Live Who. Well, I say a few weeks. We're going all the way through till May. So we're basically available to talk about whatever you want. Think of us as sort of podcasters for hire. So let us know what Who topics you'd like us to cover. Otherwise, we're just going to spin the wheel and go back into some old Doctor Who episodes. So yeah, let us know what you've got hankering for. What would you like us to talk about? Is there an episode you'd really like us to visit and tear apart and find all the camp moments from? And we'll go ahead and do that for you.
I've had a couple people message us about stuff, and one that people do want to see. They want to see us talk about Love and Monsters at some point.
Yeah, I could do that. We could do it. What do you want? A defense? I can do a defense.
I'm doing a defense. Oh, I would not do an attack. I would definitely be doing a defense.
I think it's a gorgeous use of the yellow. I was quite a yellow fan at the time when that came out.
So we're going to be having 1 week off Wholala just to give our little brains a catch up from Christmas, a catch up from the last season of Wholala, and then we'll be right back in January for season 4 of Wholala.
I can't believe it.
In the meantime, please reach out to us on all of our social media platforms. Let us know what you'd like to see on season 4 of Wholala. You can reach out to us on the app formerly known as Twitter, which is now X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, all of which are at Wholala Pod. You can also rewatch old episodes of the podcast on our YouTube channel at Wholala Pod.
You absolutely can. And if you're feeling really generous, please do leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and follow the pod as well so you get notified every time we drop a new episode, and it does good things for rankings and such. So please do leave us a rating. We always recommend at least 5 stars, but it's your choice. It's your choice.
It's up to you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to season 3 of Wholala. We look forward to seeing you in the new year. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We will see you soon for Wholala season 4.
See you then.
Bye.